Hello, everyone. My name is Bala Afshar, Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. Ray and I welcome you to join us, follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send us your questions using hashtag DisrupTV, and Ray, myself, and our distinguished guests will do our best to answer during the live show. We have about 190 interviews that are also on podcasts that you can check out on SoundCloud and iTunes. It's my pleasure to introduce Ray Wang, CEO, founder of Constellation Research, regular contributor to Harvard Business Review, Forbes, ZDNet, and best-selling author of Disrupting Digital Business, one of the best follows on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bala, and also for the wonderful introduction. We are here with Bala Afshar as well, one of the top CIO and CMO influencers in the world, big contributor to Huffington Post, and also a master storyteller, but we'll talk about that some other day. So who do we have today? Who do we have from the GTA?
I am so excited to have Stuart Lombard, founder and CEO of Ecobee, as our first guest. Stuart is the president and chief executive of Ecobee, founded the company in 2007 in pursuit to reduce his family's carbon footprint and save money. He discovered that heating and cooling made up the majority of his home's energy use. So he built a thermostat smart enough to deliver comfort, conserve energy, and pay for itself in energy savings. His work and dedications have propelled Ecobee to become a top smart thermostat brand in the US and Canada, compatible with industry's leading smart home ecosystems, including Apple HomeKit, Amazon Echo, and Samsung SmartThings. Stuart is a fantastic follow on Twitter at STU_LOMBARD. Welcome, Stuart, to Disrupt TV.
Thanks very much for having me. Great to be here. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot for being on the market. As you can tell, this show's theme is really about what's happening in the world of IoT, smart homes, devices, right? Let's start with the story of why. Why did you start this? Because usually entrepreneurs and founders think about a problem that they're having and they go at it and they solve a problem for everyone else in the process. But yours was a different kind of story as well. So tell us about Ecobee.
Yeah, I mean, you talked a little bit about it at the beginning. It really started from, me being out of a good job, first of all, and secondly saying, okay, I'm going to spend some time and figure out, how can I reduce my environmental footprint? And really the insight I had was like, I was going to go buy a Prius, and I actually did put solar panels on my roof, but it was like, crap, those are really expensive. Yes. And if I could just program my programmable thermostat, how much better could I do? And the products in the market at the time were like really hard to use. They weren't internet connected. And we thought if we could use data, how much better could we do? And the answer is a lot. So to put it in context, I have $26,000 of solar panels on my roof. I have a $250 Ecobee. My $250 Ecobee saves me about as much energy as my $26,000 in solar panels.
Whoa, that's awesome. I mean, you're getting like 1,000x improvement there.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, Toronto's not the sunniest place, so I'll put that in context, but it's a mammoth impact. Actually, it's funny because when we started, we said like, okay, what'll be really cool is we'll be able to check off cities that our customers take off the grid by their savings, right? And so, at the beginning, we'd be in the company stand-up meeting and we'd say like, hey, we just took Smith Falls off the grid, and everybody would cheer. And of course, no one's ever heard of Smith Falls, right? Or a few people have heard of Smith Falls. But now actually, we're talking about cities that have, NBA basketball teams. And so it's quite cool.
That is incredible. There's a lot of analysts firms that are forecasting things connected to the internet, including smart homes, at quantities that 3 times the population of Earth in a couple of years.
Did I say I love those guys?
Yeah. What's that?
Did I say I love those guys?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We had an executive from Cisco who's responsible for leading innovation. Cisco's projections are 50 billion connected devices in the next few years. As you've been leading Ecobee and growing the company, can you talk to us from a CEO perspective, some of your biggest achievements and challenges as Ecobee has grown into a very successful mid-size company?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you do a startup, it's a journey, right? So there are a lot of challenges that come with doing any startup, and so challenges are lots of it, depending all how much time you have. In terms of successes, I think when we started the business, we had really two core aspirations. And the first aspiration was, to build a company and a product that our customers and our employees admire. And the second one was to have a significant impact on our customers' lives and the environment. And I really feel like, the journey's never over, but, we've made a significant impact on both of those. We measure Net Promoter Score, customer satisfaction really seriously. Our Net Promoter Score right now is around 70. We really feel that puts us in the sort of top 1% of consumer electronics companies. And really, when you think about how we compete with, Google and Honeywell, who are like, companies with limited budgets and unlimited reach, we're going to win with consumers. And so having that great consumer feedback, makes me feel really, really proud, and something, the team, I think, should feel really proud about.
That's amazing, that promoter score.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So look, founding companies are hard, right? And when you think about trying to take something from concept to commercialization, you said it yourself, you're up against these billion-dollar giants, right? Yep. And they woke up one day and realized, oh my God, we're being disrupted by all these new players, right? We make better thermostats. We've been in the business for 100 years, right? What advice do you give founders when you're scaling up a business? Because there's so many places you can go attack, right? And an existing incumbent. Like, how did you decide what areas you wanted to go after? And then how would they be different versus, after you discovered that Nest was being acquired, all these folks were coming into these places. Like, how do you figure out where to go attack? And what kind of strategy would you give as advice to founders?
So it's a great question. So I think a couple different things. So the first thing is it's about tenacity and resilience, right? So I tell people, like, we have no right to exist. We should not exist. If you're logical and you put us on a piece of paper, we should not exist. We're like a barnacle clinging to a rock in the North Atlantic, being thrashed by the waves, and we only survive because we're resilient and on our smarts and whatever. And so I think the first thing is really about resiliency. But the other place I think where you can really win is around focus, right? And being really focused on delivering a customer value prop. Doing, I think, what Clay Christensen talked about in Good to Great, which is really about, how do you hone that skill, and over time, turn that flywheel and really become, an important brand. And if you look at sort of the journey that we've gone through, that focus, somebody said to me when we started, they're like, first of all, they said, like, why are you building thermostats? Nobody gives a crap about thermostats. And the second thing they said was, you're going to build a thermostat. What are you going to do 6 months from now, right? And we've been at it 10 years. But the really cool part is I'm more excited about our product roadmap and the opportunities in front of us and where we're going than I've ever been. And being the #1 product in a category, and right now we're actually #2 in the category with about 36% market share, is that, it's enabled us to partner with Google and Amazon and Apple, sorry, not Google, Amazon and Apple and Samsung in really exciting ways that's really, moved the business forward. And so that focus has really, really helped us.
That's terrific. That's terrific. So you're Toronto-based, and very recently, Toronto and Canada have demonstrated that there's a strong commitment to becoming the epicenter of artificial intelligence in the world. Yeah. Big government support, companies, large and small startups, the Vector Institute. There's a lot of energy in Canada, specifically Toronto and University of Toronto and Waterloo and others. Some would argue the godfather of deep learning is in Canada.
Yes.
When you think about the next 10 years of Ecobee and just the intersection of AI and IoT, what are your thoughts about, really, because right now you have beautiful product and incredible service and support, but there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in the thermostat space. Yeah.
Well, I think a couple things. I think one is, and other people have said it, but I think AI and machine learning will change the way people interact with computing, the way we run our businesses and the way our society works, the way the internet has. Like, it'll have that same magnitude, in my opinion. And then when we think about where we're going, we think about our, we start with our customer, right? And that customer is, you think about it, I don't know if you have kids, but you wake up in the morning, you try and get your kids at least dressed first of all, then you try and get them fed, then you get them to school, then you fight traffic, you get to work, your boss is probably a dork, and you have a demanding career, and then you get home and you take them to soccer and you got to make dinner and cut the grass, and I'm exhausted, right? And so how do we make our customers' lives simpler and better, right? And so that's really about how do we understand what you want to do, what other products are in your house, and then how do they work together, and how do we create this, really magical experience that anticipates what you want. Voice is a big part of that, because in your home, voice is an awesome experience. And so we've been working on voice for about 2.5 years. It's faster, it's context aware. You don't have to navigate through menus. It's much faster than typing. And so we believe that it's going to be the cornerstone of really a new computing platform in the home. And our goal is to be a big part of that, but all around, how do we make those everyday chores, all the things that you have to do, just simpler and better.
Right. Hey, and you've basically made a big shift from just going to smart thermostats in that sense to actually creating Alexa enabled, really being endorsed by Apple, as really being that interface inside the home. What's next, right? What do you want to hit next? Because besides the thermostat, there's a whole bunch of other home automation, home areas that could be interesting extensions of where you are, based on what you have on the voice technology, the sensors that are available, and of course, all the other things that you're able to do accessories around, from humidifiers to ventilators to like HRV or ERVs if you want. So
yeah. So I think the first one that I'm really excited about that we've announced is our smart light switch product. And so it's a Wi-Fi connected light switch, and that's phenomenal. It's great. You can get lots of value from it. But we've embedded far-field voice into that light switch. So it's like getting a Wi-Fi connected light switch and say an Amazon Echo Dot, all in a single product, all in a form factor that fits into your wall, that's beautiful, that doesn't have any cords, or it's not going to collect dust. There's sort of an argument going around right now that there's a battle on for the side table, and everybody wants to create a device that you're going to put on the side table next to your couch. Well, why don't we just integrate it into the wall where it's all nice and seamless? And then the second thing we're doing is we're packing all our devices with more and more sensors. So if you look at where your smartphone was, or your phone wasn't a smartphone, where your phone was in 2006, it was probably a crappy phone and a crappy camera, right? Maybe, right? And then you had your own digital camera, and you had an iPod, and you had a GPS in your car, and then fast forward 3 or 4 years, and all those things morphed into a single device. Once we have a CPU on your wall, the incremental cost of adding a sensor, it's not an Echo Dot, but it has the functionality of an Echo Dot all inside it, right? And more capabilities into fewer, smaller devices that work seamlessly in your home and kind of disappear, but then they can do a lot more for you. And that's where we see really that step change in function to this really delightful user experience.
So this thermostat is just the beginning.
It's absolutely just the beginning, and there's there's a long roadmap. Actually, when I talk about it, the guys, you can hear them having heartburn in the room next door. They're like, "Hey, don't let them come up with any more ideas."
That's awesome. Whatever you don't talk to the guy who told you why would you get into the thermostat business. No, it's Ray and I this week. We had the privilege of co-presenting with Walt Mossberg at a conference. And Walt talked about the future in the context of ambient computing.
Yeah.
And he used voice as the new user interface. And he talked about fast forward 5-10 years from now, and you're really talking and receiving insights and improving your quality of life with ambient computing. So it's very much in line with, I believe, what we just heard from you. So if we have a lot of entrepreneurs and startup founders watch the show. What kind of advice would you give to a CEO or a founder of a company who's thinking about entering the smart home category business and industry?
Right. Well, I think one thing is, we tell ourselves, we compete with the iPhone, right? And of course, we don't make phones, right? But consumer expectation of what a device is the iPhone. So when you put something in someone's home, they pull their phone out of their pocket and they're like, is it as good as this? Because if it's not, it's shit. Sorry, I don't know. I shouldn't swear. Sorry. And so you compete with the iPhone. And so really around, how do you create that phenomenal user experience? How do you create a product that's crafted with the same quality levels? Because while there's a lot of discussion out there about how much less expensive it is to start a business today. You can use open source tools. You can do 3D printing. There are a lot of things that make starting a business much more advantageous. But the thing that's changed on the other side is that consumer expectations are so much higher. So when I started, like my first, I started an internet service provider in 1994, right? And in 1994, like that was even before, Mark Andreessen was still at the University of Illinois, right? He was still working on like a product called Mosaic that became Netscape, that like whatever, right? There weren't any websites, right? And then, in 1995, animated GIFs came out. And animated GIFs, people were like, oh my God, animated GIFs, right? And so in the world of animated GIFs is exciting, like the bar was really low. But today, you look at all what we have with AR and VR and the phenomenal products that are out there, consumer expectations are super high. And so making sure that your product is not just good, but is really great. And that difference between, good and great, to me, it's like when I was in high school, I submitted a paper. And if I got a B, that was like, oh, that's awesome. That's really good, right? But with your consumer electronics product, you really need like a 95, 96, 97, 98%, where people are like, it's okay, and so to really get above, you really need to like strive to really hit that high bar of excellence, which takes time and effort and frankly money.
It doesn't surprise me that your net promoter score is a 70, which is phenomenal. Like you said, top 1%. It seems like you guys treat customer experience as if though it is the product. It's not just the brand, the experience defines the product.
That's right. And I think all the way from the time the person touches it on shelf till the time they install it, till the time they speak to our customer support representatives if they do, how they use it, all those kinds of things, that whole journey from beginning to end, we really think carefully about. I mean, it's actually one of the things I'm most proud of is that when you read some of the customer reviews, they say, this is the best instruction manual I've ever seen, right? And it's that care and attention to detail that really just, makes me so excited. And I'm like, wow, that's, the team did an awesome job just to like make sure every detail was just perfect.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's awesome. You are a serial entrepreneur, and that's what makes this very interesting from what you're hinting at, from InfoRamp all the way to where you are today. Leadership advice for founders, right? You've done it before, you've made your mistakes. What are some of those top mistakes, and who are some of the mentors to help dig you out of those and help you think through a different path? So
maybe we'll just, I'm still in therapy on the mistakes, so maybe we'll leave those. I think one of the things actually, like, is as you scale that I really came to realize was, when you're small and you're 7 or 12 people and you're all in the same room, ideas spread by osmosis, right? The person who's sitting at the desk next to you, they know everything that's going on, whether you want them to or not, right? And so, but when you grow, that doesn't happen, right? And so how do you keep that same culture? How do you keep everybody in line? How do you keep people engaged? How do you make sure that people understand what they're doing and how it fits into the overall company direction and strategy? Becomes really, really critical, like communication. So if you ask me like what I think our biggest challenge is how do we scale this business over time, right? And how do we create frameworks that will allow us to grow without like destroying our culture, right? And I say frameworks versus process purposefully because, frameworks give you room to play. Processes feel like they're quite, top-down driven, right? And so, how do you put those in place, and can you put them in place earlier so that you can, maintain your culture and it doesn't feel like you're like, I don't know, just, doing a massive renovation to everything when you get to the next step and you're like, somebody says, oh, I didn't know, I don't know why we do what we do, right? And like, okay, damn.
Sure.
We've been tracking that life cycle, right? Where you go from getting the best people on your teams, and then in the next cycle, building the best product, and then in that cycle of getting the best customers on board. And that's the exciting part. What do you do when you get to the part where it's all financial engineering after that? On the IPO side, you just check out and say, hey guys, all yours, you scale out. My part's done, I'm gonna go found another company? Or do you say, I'm gonna stick it through and deal with the public investors, all the regulatory requirements, the filing, and say, we're gonna take it to the next journey?
Yeah, I think, one of the great things is that, once you get an opportunity to do all those things, right, is what can we do with it? And so, I have a tremendous amount of respect for guys like Mark Zuckerberg and Sergey and Larry. And, at any time they could have just said like, hey, I'm cashing in my checks and I'm going to the beach and I'm like, I'm done, right? I'm out. but they didn't, and look what they did with it, right? And really have a unique opportunity. It's so hard to get to, like, you know, when we were like 1 million in revenue, and, you know, and nobody would give us money, and, you know, I remember like thinking like, you know, they're gonna take the keys out of my dead hand. Like, we're gonna do this, or, you know, they're gonna take the keys out of my dead hand, right? And you get to a point where now actually you have a bit more opportunity to kind of define where you go and what you do, and the challenges are different, right? It's not about whether we're going to be alive tomorrow. It's about what are we going to do 5 years from now, and that's a pretty exciting thing. And so you know, I have tons of respect for people who've been able to do that and to keep going, and that's sort of that's the next step of our journey. And I think that, you know, out of this space there will be a Google or a Facebook, and our goal is to be that company.
That's fantastic.
Wonderful. We are here with Stuart Lombard, founder and CEO of ecobee. At Twitter, you can follow him at STU_LOMBARD, one of the top startups in Canada, and of course, one of the top serial entrepreneurs. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Wow, that's an awesome success story.
Great story.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I love hearing, you know, an incredible, fast-growing Canadian company doing good, building great products, and it's going to be a very bright future for ecobee. So looking forward to keeping in touch and having Stuart back on the show in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And what's really interesting, you know, about that story is like there's a profile of him on how he wanted to build a collapsible canoe as a kid. So he's been tinkering forever. He's one of those guys that like, I'm going to make this thing better. I'm going to make this better. So we'll be good. So, well, we've got another awesome guest on the show. He's at the Terminal 5 in Heathrow. Hopefully Charlie unmutes soon and we can pop him on. But this episode is really about what's happening in the Internet of Things. And it's, as you know, and as we've heard from everyone, you know, it's more than just IoT and a device, right? We're seeing interesting business models, interesting things happen. And who better to do this than our friend Charlie? So let's introduce Charlie.
Yes. We have my good friend, our good friend, Charlie Isaacs, Chief Technology Officer for Customer Connection at Salesforce. Charlie has had a track record of R&D leadership at companies like Verizon, Answer Systems, Broad Daylight, Primus Knowledge, ATG, and prior to joining Salesforce, CTO at Kana. Today, Charlie is Vice President and CTO of Customer Connection and claims to have the best job at Salesforce. I would debate him, but you know, I think he would win as he incubates customers worldwide into Salesforce's IoT cloud platform. Charlie holds several patents. He's an inventor as it relates to CRM and the Internet of Things. He volunteers at organizations. Anybody who watches Charlie's Twitter feed sees him helping women and minorities early in their STEM career in STEM fields. He's an absolute must follow on Twitter at Charlie Isaacs, CharlieIsaacS. Welcome, Charlie, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Can I hang up after that introduction? I think I'm done. Drop the mic, right?
That's what every guest says on the show is the best intro in the business. Well, hey, Charlie, tell us how you got your role at Salesforce. Tell us about that role and how long has IoT been part of this? Because I remember the day you picked up the role. I mean, I don't know if I was in the elevator at the Marriott Marquis. It's always something like that at that Marriott. We're doing some CRM evolution with Paul Greenberg. But tell us about the role, you know, at Salesforce and how long has this IoT component been part of what you've been doing?
Yeah, well, Vala said it. I do have the best job at Salesforce. I started off in the Service Cloud area and recognized after working in Service Cloud for a while that, you know, I might turn my video off because I might be breaking up. So if I switch off my video, I apologize. You don't want to look at my face anyway. But so anyway, when I started off in Service Cloud, Dave Kellogg, Salesforce, and I recognized that well, we wanted to grow the company, that cloud, and that cloud has been growing by a tremendous amount. But I realized early on that in order to do that, we needed to capture the IoT market. And IoT, as everybody's been talking about all the time, is cross-platform, right? It's not just about customer service. It involves sales and marketing and commerce and everything else. So John Toshek was kind enough to pick me up, and I currently work for Peter Coffey and amazing people in that group, including Vala. Vala, I'm allowed to say nice things about you because you work in that group too. So anyway, since then, at the beginning, I was incubating customers. I was taking them onto our core platform, force.com. But that core platform, over a couple of years, we were able to build, including actually Interasys, while a year-old company, was one of those early adopters on Salesforce IoT. And we took your technology and you took your technology and actually did this proactively and chattered exceptions and things like that and did lots of cool stuff, and you wrote a book about it. Can I plug your book, Paula? No. There's a book on Amazon. You should read about this if you're interested in it. But beyond that, I mean, so we started off with connecting companies that had memory and CPU and disk and especially network connectivity. And those were easy to connect up to Salesforce. So we just OAuth'd into Salesforce and created rows and custom objects or created cases in Salesforce. And then we went from that to figuring out by experimentation and discovery that we needed to branch out and build something that's known right now as IoT Cloud. And it requires massive amounts of event processing. You know, what was mentioned before about ecobee, I mean, they're generating oodles of events. I'm not going to say billions and trillions, and I'll use oodles. That's my technology term for many events. And those events come in and they need to improve the customer experience, which is what I focus on with the new, not so new anymore, IoT Cloud that's been in GA for a while. But so that's my story. That was too long, but that was my story and where I got started.
That's an awesome.
Anyway,
that's
I'll be quiet.
That's an awesome story. Yeah. No, I was using my team and I. Yeah, as you mentioned, we were using the Salesforce platform to communicate with things using social networking as the communication medium. And yeah, I filed for the patent in 2011, and I received the patent just this year. So that's the history and heritage of using Salesforce platform in the machine-to-machine IoT space. And Charlie, we had Cisco is a big customer of ours, and we had Mikhail Kranz, who's the Vice President of Corporate Strategy, on our show a couple of weeks ago. And he talked about Cisco has now 14,000 IoT customers across multiple industries. And he talked about the growth of IoT in the B2B space and how there's sometimes a misconception that it's a consumer area that's growing at high rates, but it's also the B2B side as well. You've been doing some interesting workshops recently. Can you talk about your workshops in terms of how you're enabling and helping companies create new business models with IoT?
Sure, I'd love to. Hopefully, I think I dropped out for a minute, but hopefully you can still see me okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. The workshops I'm doing are very fun and very exciting. And that's why I boast that I've got the best job at Salesforce, because a company will call and say, hey, we're already a big Salesforce customer. We're using Service Cloud or maybe usually Sales Cloud, and sometimes even Marketing Cloud. And what they want to do is connect their products up to Salesforce and leverage all that work they've done, all the value they've generated by being on our Salesforce platform. Examples are, creating cases in Service Cloud. Right now, they might be, and a lot of companies are doing this right now. They're literally batch uploading device data, triggering cases in Service Cloud, or manually transposing events that come from the devices and putting them into Service Cloud, creating cases. So that's a no-brainer. That's low-hanging fruit. I go out. I ask them for data before I go typically, and it's not just me, it's many people doing this now at Salesforce Cloud, and we're able to do it really easily. So we do like a 4-hour workshop, and the goal in the 4-hour workshop is to take their events, either batch data, we'll take their batch data, or we'll take their real data. If they can do an HTTP post into our endpoint, we just take their event data, post it in, and trigger what we call an orchestration in IoT Cloud. Automatically triggers those workflows and existing functionality they've already built and they're already getting value from in Salesforce. So I don't know, I was at a hot tub. I'll give you some real examples. Everybody laughs when I talk about hot tub. I was at a hot tub company, and actually we were at 2 different companies that are doing hot tubs, and hopefully I'm not getting myself into trouble here, but I always get a chuckle. So they literally, I showed them my prototype because they didn't give me any data prior to going into the workshop. I said, okay, look, if the temperature is not sufficient, then that means the hot tub didn't heat up hot enough. So create a case in Service Cloud or send a notification via live message, Service Cloud live message to the customer. And that was the, the use cases I took into the room with me. And then they said, hey, well, if this is that easy, why don't we have the engineers come in from the other room? They happen to be here, and we rely on partners for the first mile. So Ecobee and companies like that, we rely on them to come in and do the actual integration for the first mile. And they said, hey, yeah, we can send you we can HTTP post your endpoint really easily. Give us the URL. So I gave them the URL, and they started posting real-time pump data. And this is a word that wasn't new to me, but it was kind of confusing. Turbidity. It's hard to say. It doesn't roll off your tongue, but turbidity is how murky the water is in the tub. So we pushed those two factors in and triggered events right there. And I was blown away as to how easy it was for them to connect their hot tub up. And I was also blown away as to how we were able to leverage their workflows and everything they had running in Salesforce in their sandbox just right there during the workshop. And during our workshops, it doesn't stop there. It's about ROI, right? So if you can't prove that, that's cool doing that, and that's good science fair project, prove the business value behind that, then what good is it, right? So what we do is we spend the end of the workshop bringing the executives in, showing them what business value we can generate by doing that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That you can show in 4 hours use of emerging technology to better business outcomes. And it's companies like Ecobee that get a 70 net promoter score because they anticipate customer needs and use analytics to proactively resolve issues. Last year at the Gartner Symposium, the forecast was that in a couple of years, there'll be 6 billion cases that are created where things are creating cases directly to the contact center without, IT and help desk and human intervention. So it sounds like we're well on our way to that. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, no, I was going to say this is really interesting. We have the ability to manage turbidity. There's other things that people are looking for from sensors and context. And tell us where context is playing a role for organizations, whether it's in personalization or whether it's improved, in terms of customer service and optimization. Like context seems to be coming up all the time, and IoT seems to be playing a big role. Where do you see that happen? Where do you see that going in the future?
Well, yeah, you nailed it with context. And that was one of the limitations, and I hate to say, I hope Mark Benioff's not listening to this. One of the limitations in our current platform, you have to actually write code. Click and not code it if you want, but it's easier to do that now with something like IoT Cloud, because we do manage context. We manage context on the fly with the real-time events. And also, when we talk about context, we want to know not only what the device is and what the device profile is, we want to also know where it is. And that's what's most important for context, from a Salesforce standpoint, right? We have CRM data in Salesforce, so we need to leverage that to improve that customer experience. So it doesn't matter if that hot tub turbidity is bad. We need to inform the customer or maybe they're on a premium plan. So why not notify the technician to be dispatched to the location immediately? So what's the SLA associated with that specific customer? They're a high value customer, so we need to send somebody now. We don't want to wait another hour. So all those things switch context. So my hot tub goes from okay to bad turbidity, and then it goes from bad turbidity to I dispatched the field engineer. But all along the way, those events that are generated, you don't want to just generate events and open up millions of cases. You want to switch to that state and say, oh, I've already created a case in Service Cloud, so now I'm waiting for the technician to come. So that's state machine concept is really important.
That's pretty cool. So let's say you're a company and you're basically, you sold a whole bunch of these spas and you basically want to do remote monitoring. You could say, hey, look, calcium hardness and alkalinity is really high. Okay, we can do the remote, we can remotely adjust that and fix that without having to send someone out there. Or, hey, look, there's a lot of air in the system. We're going to have to send someone out there and figure out where the particles are coming from or what's happening. Or someone says, hey, look, the pump is actually down. Yeah, you need to send a real person out there and carry these 15 parts. So that's really powerful, being able to do that, because it saves so much time. It helps people figure out what the issue is. And more importantly, you solve the problem at the root cause, as opposed to sending out the person, trying to figure out what happened, and then having someone come back later, right? That's like 3 trips instead of 1. So.
Yeah, you nailed it again. And that's what, like, a company like Emerson is doing exactly that. Emerson's got, they install HVAC systems, right, in your business, your home. And they used to go out there, and I hope I'm not going to get myself into trouble on this one, but they used to go out there and install a bunch of sensors in your house and say, oh, okay, the heating works, the air conditioning works, I've installed this properly, then leave. Most likely what happened, and what they were seeing was the person, the technician, tested the air conditioning during the summer, but didn't test the heater because it was hot outside and had no good way of testing the heater. So what they did was, and hadn't fully tested that heater, but now they're feeding that data in real time into IoT Cloud, and it does like an automated checklist for them. It checks every sensor, makes sure that every sensor has been, you know, switched to the good state from the bad state. And that is reducing, exactly as you said, Ray, you nailed it. It's reducing truck rolls. They don't have to go back in the winter when the customer goes to turn their heater on and it doesn't work.
Yeah, makes total sense. And so, Charlie, with all these workshops, with all the travel that you do, and I know you personally, as an executive sponsor, work to make sure customers are implementing the technology properly and really realizing the business outcomes that they.
Oh, wait, you just froze.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to ask is, you know, who in your organization, I mean, he's trying to ask you, like, who are your mentors? Who are the folks, you know, that you spend time with? Yeah, I mean, you've got time for that too, despite all your travel, which is pretty incredible. So.
Yeah, okay, so the question was, who are my mentors?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. You broke up, but you cut out. So, gosh, my mentors are many. Everybody I meet, well, I think I stole this from you, but everybody I meet, I learn something from, and that's so true. That's one of your quotes. Oh, we lost Vala. Okay.
Oh, no.
Was that just me? Oh, did anybody
no,
else?
You are still here on the show. We're here with Charlie Isaacs.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. I'll carry on. So mentors. My most important mentor, and this is why I do volunteer a lot with organizations like Black Girls Code. My first mentor was a high school teacher in 9th grade who taught me all about technology from the beginning. And I learned a lot from him, and I was influenced at an early age about going into electronics. And we actually were building, you know, we were fabricating integrated circuits out of semiconductors. But so over the years, I had other mentors, and this is the woman in engineering aspect of this. I worked for a woman, her name was Louise Kirkbride, and she was the first woman engineer at Caltech. You know, trailblazer, I'll use that term, trailblazer she was. She went to, she started a company called Answer Systems. She brought me in there to broad daylight with her, and she was amazing. So at an early age, I was learning about how someone can be impacted, and that could shape their future. So that's why I volunteer so much with Black Girls Code and other STEM-oriented organizations, because we really need to feed the pipeline. I'm selfish, but I want to feed the pipeline for Salesforce. But I'm also helping women and minorities go into other companies. They should be going to Salesforce, by the way. If you're listening, you should be coming to Salesforce.
Hey,
we're hiring. Okay, anyway, with that, okay, so I wouldn't, I'd be remiss if I didn't plug people like Mark Benioff. I mean, oh my gosh, Kiss Up, right? I know. John Hashek, what an amazing guy to work for. Mentor, you know, Peter Coffey is my immediate boss, and I learn something from him every time I hear him speak. So, really cool mentors in my life.
That's true.
This is wonderful. So, hey, when you think about what's going on, right, in terms of IoT programs and making IoT programs work, what are the tough challenges? Is it like trying to figure out where to put the sensors? Is it trying to figure out the data strategy? Is it trying to figure out what to do with that information and take it to action? Like, where do people start? Or do you have to do all 3 of these at the same time? Or is there a certain sequence that seems to work inside organizations?
Yeah, so where people start. people start typically with me at the first mile. You know, I go out, sometimes I brainstorm with them, and if they haven't built their product with sensors in it, and they haven't connected their product up to the web, and it's not pushing data into the web, then I know they're a long way away, but I work with them to help them build an ROI early on, so I can prove that they're going to get disrupted. Sorry, there's a lot of distractions around me right now. People are walking around the airport. But the ROI needs to be proven up front so that they can embark on those IoT projects. And then we could do a little prototyping up front, even without having the product sensors in place. And that's what I started off doing, you know, 4 years ago when we didn't have IoT cloud really. We were doing prototyping, and then I'd say, hey, call me back when you've got everything connected up and you've got your sensors and you know you want to do it. And sure enough, those companies are starting to call back now, and they're saying, hey, we're ready for you. And we saw this IoT cloud thing. We're really interested in it.
That's very cool. Hey, can you interview the folks in Heathrow and ask them what they think IoT is? Kind of like the man on the street kind of thing.
Like these two guys at the table here.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of IoT, Internet of Things? Oh, this other guy's on the phone. Now he's mad at me. Sorry. Okay. So they're laughing at me. Oh, now, security's coming over. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, we gotta go. We gotta go.
No, I'm joking.
No, this is awesome. We are here live with Charlie Isaacs in T5 London Heathrow Terminal. Charlie's the CTO for Customer Connection at Salesforce, and you can follow him on Twitter at Charlie Isaacs, ISAACS. Thanks for being on the show.
Safe travels, Charlie.
Thanks for inviting me. Hey, thanks. I love you guys. You're my mentors too. I forgot to say that. Oh wait, no, Ray. Bye.
Awesome. Always exciting. Always wonderful. It's Charlie Isaacs here.
Ray, Charlie's one of the reasons I joined Salesforce. I mean, he's an incredible person. Yeah.
That is awesome. So we've got some technical glitches here. Andy has been kicked off by his telco provider. And so we will catch up with Andy in a future episode. I believe that the message from the telco provider was classic, so I have to read it. It says, telco has just announced service suspension of Google Hangouts, video, audio off. So that's where we are. So I don't know what's with that message, but apparently in his neighborhood they banned.
And where was Andy dialing in from, Ray?
He's dialing in from a town called Eastbourne, London. Eastbourne, outside of London in the UK. It's in the south. It's south of. It's the southern tip of the UK. So it's poor him. Sure, He's not on the show.
We were able to get Charlie from London, and so 1 for 2, I guess.
Maybe we'll only get one today. Like, I mean, that's what happens with the telco service. But we'll have to deal with that later. But we've got an exciting episode 80. Can you believe 80 coming up? And this one is really, really cool. So we're talking about CX in a way we haven't talked about it before. And let's who do we have as guests? Who's up there?
We have Brian Kennedy. He's the CEO and founder of Move Guides. We also have David Stuart. He's the executive vice president of O.C. Tanner Company. He's an author, and he's going to talk to us. And of course, we have what you and I think most of the folks in the CRM industry affectionately call the godfather of CRM, Paul Greenberg, the founder and managing principal of the 56 Group. And more importantly, I think his book, CRM at the Speed of Light, 5th edition, is the most read CRM book of all time. So we'll be talking about lots of amazing mix of technology, culture, business, leadership next week.
So very cool. We will end this broadcast early. Thank you, everyone, for being on the show. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV show, all full with lovely, fun Google Hangout problems and issues. We'll be switching platforms. If you are a platform provider and want to be a sponsor of the show, let us know because we are swapping platforms soon. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.